Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be reading Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy, Part 1, The Knights of the Nasty Nostril Nuggets. Hi everybody and welcome to another one of our distresses and misadventures. Before we get started, check out this comic book to get the full scoop on our story so far. George and Harold proudly presents The Awful Truth About Captain Underpants, a Treehouse comic production. Once upon a time, there were two cool kids named George and Harold. We da man! Me too! And they had a mean old principal named Mr. Krupp. Grrr! Hey Bubs! Blah blah blah. One time, Mr. Krupp punished George and Harold. You have to obey my orders. So they got a 3D hypno ring and hypnotized him. No way. You must obey us now. Okay. They made him think that he was a superhero. You aren't. Now Captain Underpants. Yes, master. It was supposed to be a joke. Tra-la-la. Ha ha ha. But it got carried too far. I will go fight crime now. Way too far. Hey, come back here, bub. Tra-la-la. Then one day, he got attacked by a dandelion. Why don't you hate it when that happens? Help! Don't you hate it when that happens? Help! So George stole some superpowered juice from a UFO. Ouchie! And gave it to him. Down the hatch. Glug, glug, glug. Suddenly, he got superpowers. Hey, I can fly now. I can roar. Oh, great. Bummer. Nowadays, whenever Mr. Krupp hears somebody snap their fingers, he turns into you-know-who. Not again. And the only way you can stop it is if you pour water on his head. Age 20. What the? So whatever you, then he turns back into Mr. Krupp. What's the big idea, Bubs? So whatever you do, don't snap your fingers around Mr. Krupp, okay? The end. Chapter 1, George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the bad t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now? Please wash your hands after using the toilet. George and Harold's grades in school were much like whales in the ocean. They rarely rose to sea level. Please wash your hands after using the washroom. Melvin Sneely, however, he's the kid down there with the bow and the tie and the glasses. He always got straight A's. Because Melvin was academically gifted. People just assumed he was a lot smarter than George and Harold, but that wasn't true. You see, George and Harold were very bit as smart as straight A students, but in a different way, in a way that couldn't be measured by quizzes or worksheets. Please wash your hands in the toilet. Maybe George and Harold couldn't spell very well or remember their multiplication tables. Perhaps their grammar weren't no good either. But when it came to saving the entire planet from nasty forces of unrelated evil, there were nobody better than George Beard and Harold Hutchins. it's a good thing that George and Harold were smart enough to get themselves out of trouble, because their silliness was getting them into trouble. In fact, one time it got them into a really snotty situation. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, Squishies, Part 1. It was demonstration speech day in Miss Ribble's 4th grade English class. Every student had to give an oral report demonstrating how to do something. First up were Tim Bronsky and Steve Loopner, who demonstrated how to give a speech that they hadn't prepared for. They got a D. Demonstration speech. Next up were Gordon and Stephanie Wyckoff, who demonstrated how to cook frozen lasagna in a pop-up toaster. After the firemen left, it was George and Harold's turn. Harold carefully tacked some charts and graphs onto the wall, while George brought out a large garbage can with the toilet seat taped onto the top. Squishies. Cross section. Seat. Bumpy thingy. Ketchup. Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen. Side view. Ladies and gentlemen, said George. Today, Harold and I are going to demonstrate how to do a squishy. First, you need 2 packs of ketchup and a toilet seat. Next, said Harold as he pointed to their display chart, you must fold the ketchup packs in half and carefully place them under the toilet seat. Make sure that the packs are under those 2 bumpy thingies on the bottom of the seat. Now, once the ketchup packs are in place, said Harold, all you have to do is wait for somebody to sit down on the toilet seat. Do we have any volunteers? Come on, said George. Who wants a squishy? Although nobody in class wanted to sit on the toilet seat, everybody wanted to see what would happen if somebody actually did. So George grasped the other end together. So George grasped one side of the toilet, and Harold grasped the other, and they pushed down. Splat, splat, splat. Everybody in the class was thrilled, except for the 2 kids sitting directly in the front of the toilet seat, who were somewhat less than thrilled. Hooray for squishies! The children shouted. Now, normally George and Harold's teacher, Miss Ribble, would have been very angry about this particular demonstration speech. She would have to yell on and on about imitable behavior and how it's not nice to spray ketchup into people's underwears. But Miss Ribble had changed quite a bit since the last book, and now she was all about fun. Come on, kids, shouted Miss Ribble. Shouted Miss Ribble. Let's all run to the cafeteria and grab some ketchup packs. Squishies for everybody! Hooray! Cried the children as they bounded from their seats and dashed towards the classroom door. Not so fast! Shouted Melvin Sneedley, who stood blocking the door with his arms spreading defendantly. You guys are so immature. Chapter 3, The Finaltron 2000. Melvin Sneedley, the school brainiac, was not about to let anybody leave the classroom until he had given his speech. His demonstration speech. Well, we still have 15 minutes left before lunch, said Melvin. And that's enough time for me to demonstrate my new invention, the Combinotron 2000. Oh, man, whined Melvin's classmates. The children all slumped back into their seats while Melvin pushed the plastic rolling cart on the front of the classroom. On top of the cart were a hamster, a small robot, which Melvin had built himself, and a strange-looking contraption shaped like an ice cream cone. Today, said Melvin, I will demonstrate how to turn an ordinary hamster into your own bionic cyber slave. Melvin placed his pet hamster, Sulu, at one end of the cart, his tiny homemade robot on the other end. Now I shall combine this ordinary hamster with this tiny robot using the Combinotron 2000. Melvin picked up the Combinotron 2000 and turned it on with a high-pitched tone pierced the classroom, getting higher and higher and higher in frequency. As the machine charged to full power, Melvin typed some last-minute calculations onto the keyboard into the keyboard on the side of the Combinotron 2000 as its laser attractor warmed up. Suddenly, two streaks of red glowing light flashing onto Sulu and the tiny robot. The Combinotron 2000 began assimilating information on the two elements. It was about to combine. Don't worry, kids, said Melvin. This procedure is totally painless. Sulu won't feel a thing. Finally, a computer-sized voice started the countdown, combining two elements in 5 seconds, combining two elements in 4 seconds, combining two elements in 3 seconds, combining combining two elements in 2 seconds, combining two elements in 1 second. A brilliant white light shot out of the Combinotron 2000 and formed a ball of energy between Sulu and the tiny robot. The hamster and the robot began to slide closer and closer together until they disappeared into the energy ball. The smell of burned matches and pickle released filled air as hot blasts of electric wind knocked books off the shelf and sent papers flying. Suddenly, there was a blinding paper flying. A quick puff of smoke, and it was all over. Melvin pulled off his goggles. No longer were a hamster and a robot sitting on the cart before him. Now the hamster and robot were one, combined at a cellular level. The world's first self-combined, warm-blooded, fuzzy bionic cyborg. Eureka! Shouted Melvin. It worked! The children looked on at Melvin as Melvin waved the metal detector over the hamster and reading went off the chart. One of the children raised his hand with a question. Yes, said Melvin autistically. Can we go to the lunchroom and get our ketchup packs now? But no, screamed Melvin. Will you forget about squishies for 1 minute? Forget about I've just created the most first cybernetic hamster, and nobody is leaving this room until I've demonstrated his undying obedience. Chapter 4. Bad Sulu. Sulu didn't seem to know that he had just undergone a groundbreaking transformation. He didn't act any different. He just wandered across the top of the plastic rolling cart, sniffing everything around him, only stopping occasionally to scratch his ears or rub his whiskers. But poor Sulu was in for a big surprise. Sulu said, Melvin, I'm your new master, and you will obey only my commands. I want you to demonstrate your new powers for the class. Do a super bionic jump across the room. Sulu did not respond. Sulu, said Melvin sternly. Crush that plastic rolling cart in your bare paws. Sulu did not respond. Sulu, Melvin shouted. Go outside, pick up a cart and throw it across the parking lot. Sulu did not respond. Finally, Melvin reached into his book bag and took out a red ping pong paddle he had designed especially for this occasion. Sulu, he said angrily, do as I say, or you're gonna get a good spanking. This time, Sulu did respond. He saw the ping pong paddle. He became very frightened, and his little hamster instincts took over. Sulu jumped into the air, grabbed the ping pong paddle in his right paw, and yanked Melvin onto his plastic rolling cart with his left paw. The children finally stopped thinking about ketchup packs and toilets for a moment and settled to watch the show. Chapter 5. The incredibly graphic, violent Chapter 1. Part 1. In Flip-O-Rama, the following chapter contains graphic depictions of a mean little boy getting spanked by his bionic hamster. While this event is presented for humorous effects, the producers of this book acknowledge that hamster attacks are no laughing matter. If you or someone has been the victim of a hamster attack, we strongly urge you get help by seeking out a local support group in your area or by visiting whenhamstersattack.com. Introducing Flip-O-Rama. The problem with incredibly graphic violence is that it's hardly ever fun. Well, all that has changed. And in the event of Flip-O-Rama, check it out. Here's how it works. Step 1. First, place your left hand inside the dotted lines marked left hand here. Hold the book open flat. Step 2. Grasp the right hand page with your right thumb and index finger inside the dotted lines marked right thumb here. Step 3. Now quickly flip the right hand page back and forth and the picture appears to be animated. Flip-O-Rama 1. Page 41 and 43. Remember, flip only page 1 while you are flipping. Be sure you can see the picture on page 41 and the one on page 43. If you quickly flip the two pictures, will start to look like one animated picture. Don't forget to add your own sound effects. You can see right here that he's getting a spanking. Hold on, let me see the camera like this. There you go. You can now see that he's getting a spanking, and the hamster is hit him with a spanking, and he's probably crying. Next page. Chapter 6, The Aftermath. Although Sulu hadn't really spanked Melvin very hard, Melvin wailed and blubbered and carried on anyway. "You're a bad hamster," Melvin cried. "I never want to see you again as long as I live." Melvin ran out the classroom sobbing. The rest of the class, including Miss Ripple, followed him out, laughing and chanting, "Squishies, squishies, squishies." But George and Harold stayed behind to comfort the forgotten hamster. "Don't feel bad, Sulu," said George. "Melvin is a real meanie." "Yeah," said Harold. "You want to come home and live with us? You could live up in our tree house." Sulu jumped onto Harold's shoulder and licked his face. Then he jumped over to George, and George's shoulder licked his face too. "I think we just adopted a bionic hamster," said George. Harold. So George tucked their new pal into his shirt pocket, and the three friends went off to lunch. Chapter 7, Mr. Krupp. About that very same time, the school principal, Mr. Krupp, had came out marching into the office in a particularly foul mood. He stopped beside Miss Anthrope's desk, huffing and puffing. "Where's my coffee, Edith?" he shouted. "Get it yourself, Tubby," Miss Anthrope shouted back. "I don't need your lip today, woman," Mr. Krupp growled. "I just want my coffee, and I want it now." "Well, get me a cup too while you're at it," Miss Anthrope growled back. "Ah!" screamed Mr. Krupp in frustration as he grabbed the newspaper and headed to the facility restroom. Miss Ribble was standing beside the restroom door, smiling and trying very hard not to laugh. "What are you looking at?" Mr. Krupp snarled as he pushed his way past Miss Ribble and slammed the restroom door behind him. Inside the restroom, you could hear the faint sound of a belt buckle jingling, a zipper unzipping, some clothes rustling, and finally, splat, splat! "What the?" screamed Mr. Krupp from inside the restroom. "I've got ketchup in my underwear!" In a few moments, the door of the facility restroom flew open. "I'm going to get George and Harold for this," Mr. Krupp screamed. "They didn't do it," laughed Miss Ribble. I did. It's called a squishy. It's the latest fraud." "Yeah, right. Very funny," said Mr. Krupp. "Now, where are those two kids? I just know they're responsible." As Mr. Krupp headed for the cafeteria, he noticed that he wasn't the only person to follow the hallway's angry first. Second, third, fifth, and sixth graders were complaining about ketchup stains on their pants, socks, legs, and underwear. Mr. Krupp stormed into the cafeteria and headed for the fourth graders' table. "George and Harold," shouted Mr. Krupp, "I've got ketchup in my underwear because of you two. And so do half the kids in the school." "Well, we didn't do it," said Harold. "Yeah," said a few other fourth graders. The other fourth graders. "George and Harold were innocent." "Oh no, they're not," said a voice from the other end of the table. "It was Melvin Sneely." Besides being the school brainiac, Melvin was also famous for being the school tattletale. George and Harold thought very everybody a trick today where you put ketchup packs under a toilet seat and make it spray on people's legs. Melvin reported proudly. "Thank you, Melvin," said Mr. Krupp as he turned to George and Harold and pointed at the cafeteria door. Mr. Beard and Mr. Hutchins, out! That's chapter 8. Chapter 8 to 18 will be out tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye! This is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Oh my god, we're literally walking to the Burj Khalifa. I am so excited, I cannot believe it. I just went to the Gucci store and I got this Gucci t-shirt for me.